Thanks for tuning in to Ag PhD. I'm Brian Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. Thanks for joining us today. One of the things that's top of mind for us at this point is what's our planting depth going to be in corn and in soybeans? We'll talk about how important that could be for you.
We're also going to discuss your options for burn down when you have Roundup resistant weeds. It's going to be a little challenging, but you can definitely do it.
And will those methods work to control our weed of the week? We'll show you that later in the show. But first, here comes today's Farm Basics.
Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
During our Farm Basics time today, we're just going to talk about how a corn plant matures versus how a soybean plant matures. It's very different.
Let's start by talking about corn, because that's one that's a little bit more predictable in the fact that corn matures based on the amount of heat that it accumulates. So as corn plants get warm days, they grow a little quicker. As the temperature cools down, their growth slows down. So the seed corn companies, as they sell corn hybrids to farmers, they will rate their hybrids based on how much heat those hybrids need to accumulate during the season to reach maturity.
In order to measure exactly how much heat a corn plant has had to reach maturity, there is something called growing degree days or growing degree units. What they found in corn is that if the temperature gets over 86 degrees, then the corn plant doesn't really advance any faster than if the temperature is exactly 86 degrees. By the same token, below 50 degrees for a temperature, we're really not finding any growth or any real active growth. So what they use for this growing degree units or growing degree days is 86 caps the high, 50 caps the low, and all you're doing each day is taking the high temperature plus the low temperature, dividing that by 2 and subtracting 50. That's giving you your growing degree days or growing degree units.
So as the season progresses, farmers will track how many growing degree units they have, or if you want it to be automatically tracked for you, you could use a tool like the Ag PhD growing degree unit calculator. You just type in where you're at and what day you planted your corn, and if you just look at the app, it'll tell you how many growing degree units you have accumulated each day throughout the season. Now with soybeans, it's a little different story. It's not the same, well, more heat means you're going to reach maturity. With indeterminate soybeans, for example, in the upper Midwest, those soybeans will look at day length as the determining factor for when they will start the reproductive stages of growth. So soybeans will be growing vegetatively early in the season until the day length begins to shorten. Once the day length begins to shorten, the soybeans will start flowering and begin the reproductive phases.
Now the difference between indeterminate soybeans and determinate soybeans is this. With the indeterminate soybeans, I don't care when they were planted. Whether it was April 1st, May 1st, June 1st, they're going to start flowering shortly after the longest day of the year, which is June 21st. Also, in addition to flowering, they can have vegetative stages continuing to go on at that point. With determinate soybeans, they're going to have all the vegetative stages, then they're going to have all the reproductive stages. So it's two different types of soybeans. The indeterminate soybeans, like we said, June 21st, that triggers flowering, those are all the soybeans in the northern part of the country. The late maturing beans in the extreme southern U.S., those would be determinants.
So farmers will watch how corn and soybeans mature during the year, corn based on heat, soybeans based on the day length, determining when they go to the reproductive or flowering stages. Well, one other thing farmers will watch really closely for is our weed of the week in their fields. Can you identify this week's weed?
There are 6,272,640 square inches in an acre. We counted. Why? Because we designed the TigerMate 255 field cultivator and 2000 series early riser planter to maximize every single one. So when you create the most level seed bed in the industry and target a nickel-size area to plant a seed and never miss, you'll know in high-efficiency farming, there's one name to count on, Case IH. Rethink productivity. Learn more at caseih.com/everyinch.
Let's face it, Joe. Some of these guys aren't easy to play. Biologicals are expensive. Humates and plant growth regulators are messy.
Yeah, but Agro Liquid has 4 new players that have really eliminated those problems. The Primer Go line has helped their team realize the benefits.
Wait, So season-long nutrition and optimized yields while creating a biologically active soil?
That's right. Primary O-line is a fantastic addition to AgroLiquid's stellar team.
In life, when you put the max in, you get the max out. It's no different for your corn, which is why 40 years of effort have gone into proving that Instinct and N-Serve nitrogen stabilizers do more than just stabilize nitrogen, they maximize nitrogen, so your corn gives you the max in return.
Leading the charge in strip tillage for more than a decade, the Soil Warrior brings the future to your farm today.
Smart farming is playing hockey with my son.
All right, sweetie, you excited to go? Yeah. Smart farming is going on more family vacations. Smart farming is getting some much needed rest.
Smart farming is spending more time doing what you love. Make it happen with Farm Command.
Avoid dry run failures with the new Hi-Pro Force Field pump. Providing the ultimate protection, this wet seal pump will save you on costly in-season downtime to keep your sprayer running. Now all you have to worry about is the weather. Hi-Pro, helping you spray better.
One of the most important things when you're putting your crop in the ground is planting it at the right depth. Well, this is a real simple segment, Darren, because I'm just going to say, hey, plant your corn at 1.5 to 2.5 inches deep. 2 is kind of the ideal, I think. And plant your soybeans at about 1 inch to 1.5 inches deep. Done.
Well,
what else do we need to talk about?
Brian, that doesn't take into account any of the environmental factors that are happening. If it's a super dry year, if it's a super wet year, if we're really early planting, if we're really late planting, because that has to change things, doesn't it?
Nope, it's not going to. And that's the big difference between how we view things today and how people have looked at it for many years. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you can't make some adjustments in there if you want to. That's totally your call. It's your farm. You can operate it however you want to. And if you say, look, I'm not going to have rain for the next month and a half, and if I don't plant it 3 inches deep, I'm not going to get it to grow, that's your prerogative. But all I'm saying here is, for years, there have been studies done on this exact thing, and what they found is, hey, if you're planting your corn any more shallow than 1.5 inches, you're going to have nodal roots above ground. That's a horrible thing. Plus, you're going to have more lodging problem. And if you plant deeper than 2.5 inches deep, now it takes a lot more energy to push out of the ground. The yield will be less on average. So those things aren't good. With soybeans, yeah, you can lay the soybean on top of the ground and it might grow, but is it really going to stand well? Is everything going to be great? Probably not. We want to have that soybean relatively shallow, a little more shallow than the corn, but still, you got to get it in the ground a little bit.
All right, let's talk about soybeans first. And when we think about that 1 inch to 1.5 inches planting depth, the big thing that we're trying to avoid here is that top inch of soil. If we can get down at least 1 inch deep in the ground, we get to a more stable environment. Because when it gets warm out, what happens to that top inch? It can dry out very, very quickly. So we don't want to be in that top inch. You may get enough moisture with just a real small amount of rain to swell that bean up, and then the next couple days could be hot and sunny, and it dries back up and dies.
We talk an awful lot about having consistent seed depth with corn, but it's true also with soybeans. If you can plant every seed at the same depth, you give each plant a better opportunity to have great yield. So we would just encourage you, I don't care what tool you are using to plant your soybeans, whether it's a drill or a planter or anything else, but all I know is if you can have more consistent depth in that range, whatever you decide to be at, inch, 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, somewhere in there, you probably are going to have slightly higher yield.
Now, soybeans having a good anchor with that root system is important, and that's great. With corn, it is so critical. Corn's got a great big root system, and as Brian mentioned before, if we plant that shallow, we get nodal roots above ground. Nodal roots are the main root system for bringing in water and nutrients for the plant. So for corn plants, we've got to get it down deep enough to keep those nodal roots in the ground. Now the question is, how deep is too deep? Well, if we're down 5 inches in the ground, would you say that's too deep for corn? Absolutely. I think we'd have 100% agreement that 5-inch depth is just way too deep to plant corn. But is 3 inches too deep? Is 2 inches too deep? You know, that's the real question. Now, some would say in my heavy dirt where I've got compaction problems, where I've got surface crusting issues from time to time, I want to keep it a little more shallow. I understand that. I can buy that. And others would say, well, I've got really light soil and I need to go a little bit deeper because that top 1.5 inches can dry out really quick for me. And I can understand that a little bit too. The key thing to remember here is that seed only has so much energy in it. And if you want your crop to emerge well and have enough energy left to thrive in the very early season, you've got to get that depth moderated. That's why we say 1.5 inches to 2.5 inches. You may vary it by an inch out in your field and say, you know, I need the 2.5 inches this time, or I need to be closer to 1.5 inches, but never get outside of that zone for any reason.
Well, once again, when we start talking about soybean planting depth, most all the time we want you looking at that 1 inch to 1.5 inches. With corn, it's 1.5 inches to 2.5 inches. And usually for me, I'm going to tell guys 2 to 2.25 inches if we want to be real precise.
Well, speaking of precision, controlling our weed of the week is one of those things that's going to be very critical for you on your farm. We'll show you how to stop this weed coming up later in the show.
There are 6,272,640 square inches in an acre. We counted. Why? Because we designed the TigerMate 255 field cultivator and 2000 series early riser planter to maximize every single one. So when you create the most level seed bed in the industry and target a nickel size area to plant a seed and never miss, you'll know in high efficiency farming, there's one name to count on: Case IH. Rethink productivity. Learn more at caseih.com/everyinch.
In life, when you put the max in, you get the max out. It's no different for your corn, which is why 40 years of effort have gone into proving that Instinct and N-Serve nitrogen stabilizers do more than just stabilize nitrogen, they maximize nitrogen, so your corn gives you the max in return.
Introducing the SoilMax ZD48, the newest addition to the SoilMax Gold Digger lineup. The first plow designed for smaller class tractors, the ZD48 has been tested on tractors weighing between 10,000 and 16,000 pounds with excellent results. Designed for row crop farms, vineyards, irrigation, and specialty crop farms. The SoilMax ZD48 will install tile up to 48 inches deep, as well as install 3 or 4 inch tile. The ZD48 truly opens up the world of tile installation to more farms than ever before.
I know a lot of people that have them, and I don't know anybody that doesn't like their Morton Building.
The crew was really, in my book, top-notch.
The quality of this building is second to none, and they make sure before you walk away that you're happy.
This is my dream barn. I think it ended up looking even better than I thought it would.
People love it. When they get in here, they're just in awe.
Morton Buildings, for work, for life, for generations.
Smart farming is playing hockey with my son.
All right, sweetie, are you excited to go?
Yeah. Smart farming is going on more family vacations.
Smart farming is getting some much needed rest.
Smart farming is spending more time doing what you love. Make it happen with Farm Command.
Burn down was so easy about 10 years ago. You just threw Roundup out there. If you wanted something for residual, you threw that in with the Roundup. No big deal. But today, when we have all these Roundup resistant weeds, Roundup just isn't going to cut it. You're going to need something else.
Yeah, the question was, what rate of Roundup do I use? Oh,
right.
The weeds are a little big,
right.
So I didn't get out there that last week like I should have. I just throw in a little more Roundup, and that's probably part of the reason why we have the problems we have today.
Now, in a lot of cases, Roundup is still part of the burn down simply because it's good on a lot of weeds yet. It'll kill quite a few broadleaves. It will kill almost all grasses. You know, when you're only going to spend a couple bucks on the Roundup, is it a big deal to leave it out? No. You might as well spend the $2 and get better control on a lot of those weeds out there.
All right, hold on though. We've got tank mix partners now that we're putting in with it to maybe pick up some tough broadleaf weeds, and a lot of those tank mix products are fast killers, where Roundup is really slow. So
yeah, but if you're just after annual weeds, who cares? We just want that thing down. Just burn the top growth down and you're probably fine. It's no big deal. It's not like we're after perennials. If you're after a perennial weed, most of the perennials are still very susceptible to Roundup, and then yeah, we would suggest going with a very high rate of Roundup, low water volume, get as much of that Roundup into the plant as quickly as possible, kill the whole root system. That's great. But most burn down situations, we're not after those perennials.
All right, let's talk about a couple things. First of all, winter annuals like mare's tail. What do you like for mare's tail control?
All right, well, first of all, before we go to that, I should mention gramoxone, and that is something that I do like with mare's tail too, but gramoxone is kind of the new standard. Roundup was the standard 5-10 years ago. Gramoxone is kind of that today. So if you want something that's going to kill everything out there, gramoxone is probably your product. Now, you might say, well, why didn't we talk about it 10 years ago? It's been around forever. Yeah, it has, but it's one of the most dangerous products that we have. So we really don't want to use gramoxone, but if you feel like you have to use gramoxone, it is an option, and it is very good on mare's tail. But the key with gramoxone is you want sun, you want heat, and you need to throw something along with it, whether that's 2,4-D, dicamba, oil, something like that to kind of heat it up.
All right, the other thing with gramoxone is it doesn't kill the roots. So it's not like Roundup in that it's going to move down into that root system. It's just going to be top growth control, but it's going to work 100 times faster than Roundup.
Yeah, but with mare's tail, all we care about is burning the top growth down, and then usually we're in good shape. To continue on that mare's tail deal, I'd still say, like in front of soybeans, we want the 3 pre's. Get the 3 pre's out there, a yellow, metribuzin, a PPO, and then also gramoxone along with it. I know it's a lot of stuff, and I know gramoxone's much more expensive than Roundup is, but that's kind of what you've got to do if you want great mare's tail control in the spring, unless, of course, you've got Xtend beans. Then you can just go with dicamba all by itself, and that'll take the mare's tail out.
All right, now we want to be really cautious if we're using 2,4-D or dicamba in with a burn down, what crop we're in front of, what kind of time we've got before that crop is going to be up. And
let's be very specific then. Absolutely no 2,4-D, period. Unless you've got a 2,4-D tolerant crop, that enlist trait, no way, no 2,4-D, period. Okay, on dicamba, absolutely
what
in front of Xtend.
2 months ahead? What if you're 2 months ahead?
Yeah, but we're talking right in front. Why would you do a burn down 2 months in advance? I don't understand that. If you're going to burn down, then plant the crop.
So we talked about the mare's tail, which is Roundup resistant, most places that you'll find it. How about Palmer pigweed, water hemp,
it's the same
ragweed, those kinds of things?
You know, it's really the same thing. If I'm talking in front of corn, I'm not that worried about it. We got plenty of post-emerge products that are great on all those weeds. Not a big deal, but if you want great burn down, I'm probably looking at dicamba in front of corn. Certainly you can use gramoxone. If you want, you can go to Verdict, Sure Start, or Triple Flex are okay, but not great. So I'd probably lean toward those other ones. Dicamba or Verdict, that's probably me. In front of soybeans, use the 3 pre's. Throw gramoxone in with it, that's gonna burn everything down. Otherwise, again, if it's in front of Xtend soybeans, just use dicamba. That'll kill all those weeds as long as you use the right rate.
Well, certainly this time of year, there are a lot of burn down questions, and many of the acres now have switched from using Roundup, which isn't effective on these Roundup resistant weeds, moving to a product like gramoxone, which is another non-selective product that's going to kill grasses and broadleaves. Just have to keep in mind it's not going to get down in the root system on perennial weeds like Roundup did, so Roundup still may be useful if you've got mainly grasses or if you've got perennial weeds out there.
All right, well, there is a perennial weed that we haven't talked about yet that we quite commonly see in a burn down situation. You need to control this weed. What is it? We'll talk about it coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is brought to you by Dow AgroSciences. Finish the fight against tough weeds with the Enlist Weed Control System.
Weeds are tough. But we're tougher. With unrivaled weed control, reduced drift, and near zero volatility. So, who's tough now?
Weed of the week is one of the most common weeds you'll see as you travel around the country. It is dandelion.
All right, when you think about dandelion, and this is something Darren and I were just talking about too, it's not a regular perennial weed with rhizomes or anything like that. It's what's called a simple perennial. So you're just going to see a taproot there. But yes, it is a perennial. It is going to be hard to control, and it's going to come up really early in the spring. What I really prefer with dandelion is spraying it in the fall. And I know it seems a little dumb because you don't see a whole bunch of yellow flowers out there or anything else. But if all you want to use is 2,4-D on your farm, or let's say in your lawn, I'm going to hit it late in the fall. I'm going to hit it again then early in the spring.
We also see dandelion in areas where fertility isn't perfect. We see it a lot of times in areas where we're short of calcium, or where we've overgrazed or mowed lawns too short. So if you've got those kinds of situations, solve them. You don't have to use herbicides at all necessarily. You may if you let the dandelion get way ahead of you. But if you get your fertility right, you leave your grass at a little taller height, you don't overgraze the pasture, wow, all of a sudden your impact from dandelion is going to be much, much less.
All right, now just a minute ago I mentioned 2,4-D. You could also use dicamba depending on the crop or the pasture or the lawn we're talking about here. But all I know is when you use these products, what we commonly see is people aren't using a strong enough rate. They say, well, I want to go with a half pint of 2,4-D and that'll knock the dandelions down. Or I'm going to go to the hardware store and I'm going to buy some of that 2,4-D stuff that they've got for my lawn. It's not concentrated enough, so you're going to run into problems most likely with a low dose. What I'm saying is go to your crop protection retailer, get the real stuff. Probably Freelex is the best 2,4-D that there is now that's low volatile. I'd get that and I'd spray it at the strongest labeled rate, keep the water volume relatively low. You're going to have to hit it at least a couple times during the year, maybe even 3 times to make sure that dandelion is gone. And also, don't wait until you see a whole bunch of yellow flowers out there in your lawn or in your pasture. If you can get it in advance of that, then you don't have all these weeds going to seed and causing a problem for the future.
So where do we see dandelions showing up in our fields? Most commonly, we're going to see them in no-till or reduced-till fields. And often we hear farmers say, I never had dandelions before until I went no-till. Well, of course you didn't, because if you're doing a bunch of tillage, typically in the fall, you're taking care of the dandelion. So tillage can be effective on it. But if you've got to do something in a burn down, here's where it gets to be a little bit of a challenge, mainly due to rates.
All right, when you start thinking about Roundup, yes, Roundup can kill dandelions, but you're going to need 2 or 3 quarts, not this little, pint rate or something like that. That's just not going to cut it, in part because when you're doing a burn down, it's too cold. Roundup doesn't work that great. Otherwise, you can use high rates of dicamba in front of Extend soybeans. You can use a pint of dicamba in front of corn. Just don't use 2,4-D if you're right in front of planting. I just think that's a terrible option for burn down because there's so much risk for crop injury. I've seen guys hurt their corn, I've seen guys hurt their soybeans. I just don't want you to have a problem with crop injury and hurt your crop before the year ever even starts.
In wheat, you can handle most dandelions just by using Sharpen as a burn down and early season residual.
Well, that's it for our Weed of the Week dandelion, but stay tuned, Iron Talk is coming up next.
Unlock your nutrient investment with Quick Roots technology. It contains 2 powerful microbes that can help free nutrients bound in your soil, which can improve access to key nutrients for healthy crops, N, P, and K. Applying Quick Roots technology to seed can lead to improved root and shoot growth, increased yield potential, and maximized nutrient investment. See how you can make your fertilizer dollar go further at monsantobioag.com/quickroots.
The buzz on this line is probably the best in 10 years, both in soil and in the plant. Joe, you've been doing this for a while. What's your take?
Well, Don, you take a player like High Energy N, 3 forms of nitrogen, plus sulfur and iron, with slow release technology, he's making plays all season long.
Oh, look at his numbers. He's getting it done.
But don't forget about N Response. This guy's designed for a quick release nitrogen.
It's looking like another championship season for Agro Liquid.
Are you looking for an easy way to apply dry powdered products to your stored grain? Do you want to use the applicator recommended by industry leaders for products like Diacon D and other dry powder products? Changing Time CT applicators successfully apply a diversity of products quickly, easily, and accurately. The innovative CT applicators are designed to give you the most accurate application of products such as talc, inoculants, fertilizers, and other dry products. For commercial use or on the farm, you need the applicator industry leaders are using. CT applicators for the changing times.
I know a lot of people that have them, and I don't know anybody that doesn't like their Morton Building.
The crew was really, in my book, top-notch.
The quality of this building is second to none, and they make sure before you walk away that you're happy.
This is my dream barn. I think it ended up looking even better than I thought it would.
People love it. When they get in here, they're just in awe.
Morton Buildings, for work, for life, for generations.
Introducing the SoilMax ZD48, the newest addition to the SoilMax Gold Digger lineup. The first plow designed for smaller class tractors, the ZD48 has been tested on tractors weighing between 10,000 and 16,000 pounds with excellent results. Designed for row crop farms, vineyards, irrigation, and specialty crop farms. The SoilMax ZD48 will install tile up to 48 inches deep, as well as install 3 or 4-inch tile. The ZD48 truly opens up the world of tile installation to more farms than ever before.
Increase your productivity with Hypro's dual React control system. The dual nozzle body design allows you to drive at the speed you want while maintaining the rate and droplet size you need. Hypro, helping you spray better.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
There are 6,272,640 square inches in an acre. We counted. Why? Because we designed the TigerMate 255 field cultivator and 2000 series early riser planter to maximize every single one. So when you create the most level seedbed in the industry and target a nickel-size area to plant a seed and never miss, you'll know in high-efficiency farming, there's one name to count on: Case IH. Rethink productivity. Learn more at caseih.com/everyinch.
When you're seeding a crop, the last thing you want to find after emergence is that you had a blockage or an unevenness of flow in your air seeder, and now you've got a blank row or an insufficient stand in the field. In today's Iron Talk, we'll highlight some proven technology that's making a difference for growers. Traditionally, optical sensors have been used to monitor flow through air seeders. One of the big downsides with optical sensors is they require a good deal of wiring, which can be problematic to install and maintain. Enter the Recon Wireless Blockage and Flow Monitor. With Recon, it actually uses acoustic sensors, so rather than seeing the seed pass through, it uses a mechanical sensor that works like a stethoscope. As seed leaves the manifold, it passes through the sensor and reflects off a stainless steel membrane, which creates a sound. That sound is converted to a digital signal and sent wirelessly to an iPad in your tractor cab. It's simple to install, reliable, and gives you peace of mind knowing any issues with the blockage or flowability issues can be identified and solved quickly in the field. Now, in addition to knowing if the seed is coming through the final runs on the air seeder, the Recon monitors the volume of flow to identify consistency of flow through all the runs. Now, as we normally find with farming, there are many ways to do a job like monitoring blockage and flow on an air seeder. There are also easier ways to do that job, such as wireless acoustic sensors. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now back to the show.
Closed captioning for Ag PhD is sponsored by Norwood Sales.
If you're looking to expand your farm's grain handling, you want everything to be fast and efficient. The Quick Belt from Norwood Sales is your all-around grain handling solution. Our conveyor-based system uses an 18-inch belt and a 10-inch tube, which minimizes seed damage while moving more than 10,000 bushels an hour. That's fast enough to fill a semi in 6 minutes. Plus, our hood is designed to gently direct the flow of grain straight down, keeping your crop in condition. Keep your grain and your farm moving with the Quick Belt from Norwood Sales.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed our show today. If you're looking for more agronomic information, we invite you to tune into the Ag PhD radio show. We're on Sirius XM channel 147 at 2 p.m. Central each weekday.
And please join us next week for another Ag PhD TV show. We'll have a Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, Iron Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.
Planting a crop not intended for harvest is becoming a regular thing. It's called a cover crop. The use of cover crops is on the rise due to the many benefits they provide the soil, including reducing erosion, improving nutrient availability, and breaking up soil compaction. To learn about cover crops and more, visit the Responsible Nutrient Management Foundation at rnmf.org.